The first problem with digital color is the ambiguity of RGB and CMYK values. What color do these numbers actually produce when sent to displays and output devices? When we do that, we get back a wide variety of colors. If you've ever sent a CMYK file, which of course contains CMYK numeric values, to a color laser printer and then to a printing press, you will get back two different prints, each with a different color appearance for the same file. A single device profile assigns color meaning to otherwise ambiguous RGB and CMYK values. Effectively, a device profile allows its particular RGB or CMYK values to be associated with XYZ or lab values. This profile that we associate with our RGB or CMYK values is called a source profile. An image that is tagged or assigned or has a profile embedded all mean similar things. They're all examples of a source profile. We'll talk a little more about tagging, assigning, and embedding in another movie. But only with a profile associated with RGB or CMYK numbers do they have any specific color meaning. And in order to have any chance of preserving the colors we want, they must first be defined ambiguous. Only with a profile associated with RGB or CMYK numbers do they have any specific color meaning. And in order to have any chance of preserving the colors we want, they must first be defined unambiguously. For example, here we have an image. Let's grab the color sampler tool and place a couple of samples on the image. Here and here. So, sampler tool number 1 represents a pixel with these RGB values, 77, 102, and 139. And sample number 2 represents the RGB values over here, 84, 78, 66 for that pixel. Now, if I go to Edit, Assign Profile, I can change the source profile for this image. Now, this may seem a little confusing. This is not something that you might actually do, but this is just to illustrate that RGB numbers are ambiguous. If I change this profile to an Epson Perfection 3200 profile, you'll notice that on screen, the color appearance of the image radically changes. And yet, if you look at the before and after RGB values, the first set of values represent the pixel before the change in assign profile, and the numbers after the split represent the pixel after the change in assign profile. And you'll notice that the RGB values are identical, and yet the color appearance on screen is clearly different. But if I change this to show lab color for each of those pixels, you'll notice that lab represents what we see, a difference before and after the change in assign profile. Another way to look at it is an RGB or CMYK value plus a profile equals a specific color. We've made RGB and CMYK values unambiguous by having a source profile associated with them. You'll see in an upcoming movie exactly how this association occurs in your applications. But how does color management help us preserve the colors we want on some other device, such as a color laser printer or press? Conversion. And that's the topic of our next movie.